Hi everyone. These were the notes that took place on November 21st, 2019, and this is involving graphing linear equations by using the slope-intercept form and the standard form. Now for the slope-intercept form, the coefficient m of the term m times x, that represents our slope. In this first particular example, y equals 3x minus 2, your slope, m equals 3. Now, x-intercept, this is the general form, negative b divided by m, and sometimes you may have to replace, you have to watch your signs, especially for this problem, because if we did b is negative 2, but negative times negative, so that minus negative 2 really became a positive 2. And your value of m, which is 3, is your denominator. And then your x-intercept, of course, this is special notes. With your x-intercept, y equals 0. That's always. Now, for your y-intercept, x must always equal 0. Those are always straight up facts. So for the general formula, y-intercept is the value b, so your coordinate points are 0, comma b, and for the specific case, 0, comma negative 2. Now, for your standard form, the intercepts you could actually find without any problems. The slope will be a little tougher, but even if you follow the rules of your slope, so for instance, the slope, if you see standard form, it's the opposite or the negative of a over b. Now be careful, because here we're looking at it and you're wondering, how did we get 4 over 3? But what happened was the 4 was positive, so we had that minus, which is from this original negative sign, but then your 3 is negative, so minus negative makes the 2 negatives disappear. So in the end, the 2 negatives become positive, and then that's how we have our slope of m equals 4/3. Now the x-intercept, this is when y equals 0. So what would happen is, if y is 0, this term would go away, so you're left with 4x equals 12. And then as a result, if 4 times x equals 12, then x must equal 3. Similarly, if you set x equal to 0, the 4x term goes away. Then you have negative 3 times y equals 12. Then, of course, 12 divided by negative 3 gives you a result of negative 4. And then we graph using x and y intercepts. So now for this section here, graphing a line with a slope and a y-intercept. You identify your slope and y-intercept, which most times you're going to get straight from the equation. So 3 times x, your slope is the coefficient of your x value, of your x term, I'm sorry. So 3 is your slope. Oops. Let me do that. Let me use this fat. Let me use that blue. And then, so your slope m is 3, but now 3 you have to write as a fraction, so you should write your slope as a fraction, because that'll tell us to go not only how far up or down, but then to the right. So in this case, remember your fraction for a whole number, you just put it over 1. So 3 over 1. So now this 3 over 1 tells us we go up 3 first. So we start at our y-intercept b of -2. You have to include the sign. We start at -2, and we head up 1, 2, 3, and then the denominator tells us go to the right 1 spot. We follow the trend, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. So think about your y-intercept. That is your starting point. So you start, for instance, at 0, comma, -2, and then the slope is the same as the trend. The trend, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. Now, you could also go to the left 1, down 3, or down 3, left 1, down 3, left 1. But in the end, we read from left to right, you still have a positive trend for the slope, because even if you go down 3, so if you went down 1, 2, 3, that's a -3, and then to the left 1, that's a -1, so 1, 2, 3, that's your -3, and then you left 1, so you have -3 divided by -1. But what happens when we divide two negatives? The result's positive. So you still get +3 over +1. So now, there's sometimes some of our problems are application problems. So this first example of an application, Uber ride. So the scenario is, say, you have to pay an initial charge of $2. So that's before you get into the Uber car. Then it's 75 cents per each mile. So what we did was the 0.75. That's a nice easy fraction. Think about money. 0.75, 3/4. 75 cents is 3/4. So we have our slope in our fraction form. And we have our y-intercept, which is +2. So the b, +2, think of it as our starting point. 0, comma, 2. That's your starting point. And then your trend is up 3. So you go up 1, 2, 3, then to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1, 2, 3, right 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Follow that trend. And then we see after a while, so after 4 miles, the cost is $5. After 8 miles, the cost is $8. And then keep going. So if we went up 1, 2, 3, we go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we were at 12 miles, the cost would be $11, and so on. So now, for other equations, this slope overall we see is negative. Now with a negative slope, give your negative to the numerator. Sometimes you could also give it to your denominator, but usually give it to the numerator, because then we can look at our b equals 4. This tells us our starting point is 0, comma, 4. That's our starting point. So we start here. And then our trend is our slope, -2/3. So we first go down 2. So this time we're going to go down 2 spots. 1, 2. And then we go to the right 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. And you continue the trend. Down 1, 2. To the right, 1, 2, 3. and so on. This problem, b is equal to -1. Our starting point is 0, comma, -1. And then we follow the trend. So this time we go up. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, way too far up. We go up. 1, 2, 3. And to the right, 1. And then we go again. 1, 2, 3. To the right, 1. And 1, 2, 3. To the right, 1. And so on. Now, let's say you're given standard form. You have a coefficient for A and B, and your result is usually an integer. So for the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0, and then you plug in 0 for y, and you just solve for x. So you set y equal to 0, and then should include, and then solve for x. Solve for x. So that's what we should. That's what we needed to do. Solve for x, and you should get a result of x equals 3. And then this is our ordered pair, 3, 0. Similarly, for y-intercept, you set x equal to 0 and solve for y. So once we set x equal to 0, the x term goes away, so we're left with -3y, I'm sorry, equals 12. Divide both sides by 3, and then your result is y equals -4, because positive divided by negative is a negative. Unlike here, 4x divided by 4, you get x equals 12 divided by 4 is positive 3. Here, y equals -4, so our ordered pair is 0, -4. And then we use our intercepts to basically determine the trend of the line. And in this case, it is we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go to the right 1, 2, 3. So actually, we start here, go up, and then go to the right 3. So actually, and then you follow that trend. Up 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the right. 1, 2, 3. And so on. Now, the next problem. Now we're given standard form. And actually, it's very easy to find your intercepts. So for the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. So the result would be 2x equals 18. And x would equal 9. That's how we get x-intercept of 9. So we have 9, 0. Here, if x is 0, solve for y. 3y is 18. Solve for y. Y equals 6. And then you have your order pair, 0, 6. So now, here are a couple other practice problems. And similarly, to get the intercept, you set the other variable equal to 0. So for the x-intercept, y equals 0. You solve for x, x would be 2. The other way you could think about it is 3 times which number gives us 6. Now, to solve for the y-intercept, here, set x equal to 0. So you have really negative y equals 6. Or in this case, you could say negative 1y equals 6. And then you have to ask yourself, negative 1 times which number gives us positive 6? So that answer has to be negative 6. There's your 2 intercepts. And then you plot your line points, graph your line, and keep going. Similarly, for this example, x-intercept, if y is 0, x has to be negative 5. If x is 0, y has to be negative 4. Because in the end, we're looking for our product to be negative 20. So 4 times negative 5 gives us negative 20 if y is 0. And if x is 0, then 5 times negative 4 gives us a product of negative 20. Then we have our points. And we see we have, overall, we will have a negative slope. Now, another thing we can talk about is slope-intercept form. So for y, we get y equals mx plus b. That's our goal. And what we do is, first, isolate y. That's the goal. So that is our goal right here. Get that y by itself. So the first step, we solve for y by subtracting 3x on both sides. So we have 4y equals negative 3x plus 16. Then your other step, you will divide each and every term by 4. So you divide each and every term by 4. I say that because if we just put the single line over the 4, we will forget to divide one of the terms. And then you simplify each and every part. So for instance, 4y divided by 4, 4's canceled, you're left with y. Negative 3x divided by 4, leave it be. And positive 16 divided by 4 is 4. So now we have our equation in the form y equals mx plus b, where b is 4, and m is negative 3/4. So we accomplished our goal by getting our y-intercept and our slope. So the slope, negative 3/4, y-intercept, positive 4. And then from there, we now have our starting point. So our starting point is 0, 4. And then what will happen is then we're going to follow the trend. So the trend, that's our slope. Is down 3, right 4. Starting point, that is your y-intercept. Y-intercept. And then your trend, which is your slope, it's down 3, right 4. So we started this location here, and we continue the trend. Okay. Down 1, 2, 3. down, and then to the right, 4. Now, horizontal, vertical lines. We talked about this earlier this week. Equation of a horizontal line, y equals whichever number such that the line crosses at the y-axis. So in this case, y equals 4 because look at our x's. The y-coordinate for all of these x values is 4. So that's a horizontal line. Horizontal line has a slope 0. And we describe the y value for all the ordered pairs. And our equation, y equals b. B is your y-intercept. For a vertical line, you have an undefined slope, x equals -2. And this is where the line crosses the x-axis. So your x-axis goes across, and in the same case, it's going to be -2 for all 5 cases. Oops. Made that a little too small. Oh, that's a little too big. That'll be, oh, sorry, everybody. All right, that will work. There we go. Perfect. Again, x values are the same for a vertical line, undefined slope. So examples, again, horizontal line, y equals something, 0 slope. Vertical line, x equals something, undefined slope. And anytime you're given an equation, look for it on your axis. So x equals 4, look on the x-axis. Find 4, vertical line, up and down is undefined slope, up and down, think of the letter U for undefined. Whereas y equals -2, it's a horizontal line. Anytime you have a horizontal line, slope is 0. Last but not least, x equals -3. Find -3 on your x-axis, go up and down.